Welcome, everyone. We're just getting set up here. Um, Andrew is grabbing something and
All
just
right.
joining in a minute.
I got my tea bag. So are we live? Can people see us? How do I see them?
Yeah, we're live. I don't think you can see anything. We have the studio chat. If people let us know like who you are, how many followers you have on Twitter, so we can get a little bit of a conversation going. And here's Jesse.
Where do we see
Welcome.
it? Yannick, I'm looking right now. Oh, I see studio chat. So we hit the chat on the bottom and then we hit the studio chat. I'm going to say hi and you're going to be able to bring people on so we can talk to them?
I think I can.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can send a host link to people. I think you have a couple of ways how to get people in.
Okay. Folks, if you can see us, chat hi. I'd like to see you. I want to make sure that we start to talk to everyone. I see a message from Yannick. It says, hi, everyone.
Yeah, people are dropping in, I guess. So, welcome, Andrew and Jesse. It's an honor to have you guys here. I think a lot of people already know Jesse and how an amazing content creator he is and what kind of business he created. I'm just going to give you guys the floor. I see more people dripping in right now. Just maybe one more bump to everybody who's here. Just say hello in the chat. It should be enabled. Say hello. Tell me like how many followers you have on Twitter, so we have a little bit of an idea, like who you are, what you post about, and I heard that Jesse and Andrew are going to help you to, get some better content out. I'm going to give you the floor, guys.
Absolutely, and I do see Aristotle in there. I see Christina in there, George, Adi, Alex. Keep the chats coming in. One of the things that I love about Jesse is that he can, on the fly, come up with solutions for people that they never thought of before, even if they spent months working on it. And so we're going to do a bit of a workshop later today, and we'll pick people who are here and communicating with us, and we'll work on your specific needs. Jesse.
What's up?
You're going to bring your slides? Good. Dude,
Yeah,
I kind of feel bad when he introduced you as a content creator because you're not. You're like the most, yes, you share content, but you're like the most businessman-y of all of everyone who's here. And you happen to be doing this too.
I know.
And it happens to be working for you.
And Google, they call me an internet personality now, which I feel a little bad about. I preferred when it said entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are. We're both entrepreneurs. And Jesse, when you're ready, share your slides and we'll start to going through your story. And my goal here is, as a co-founder of Bootstrap Giants, Jesse's media company, he runs several companies, to ask questions that are useful to anyone here who's in the audience and people who are going to be watching the recorded version of this. So that's why I keep asking for chat. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, Jesse, you're sliding. You're moving the slide, right?
Sure. Well, where do you want to start, Andrew? Why don't you guide
So
us?
the first place we start is the place where you and I really reconnected. It's in stories, and you've got a slide on that coming up in a second. But let me cue up how I connected with you, Jesse. I had sold my company that did online greeting cards, and I said, everyone should be an entrepreneur, even if it's on the side. I'm going to show what entrepreneurship is like by interviewing people. And I interviewed the founders of Airbnb, of Dropbox, of all these software companies, and I rejected anyone who did anything that was in the consulting services space because I thought this stuff doesn't scale. And all right, and what do they really have to say? Anyway, I interviewed Jesse because he somehow managed to scale his company, and he not only scaled his company, but he did it in this super organized way that I thought, oh, this is fantastic. And the guy had a love for teaching. So I said, Jesse, I'm doing this little thing on the side where I'm also having people teach. Can you teach how this Facebook ad thing that you're doing goes? And he goes, I love teaching. Yeah, let's do it. And he taught for free my audience that was paying me at the time $50,000 a month collectively. And he was such a supporter that the two of us kind of stayed on each other's radar. And then I'd watch what he was doing on social. And I go, Jesse, you're a great freaking storyteller. And he said, yeah. And I said, Jesse, you should teach more of what you're doing inside of your agency. He goes, well, I got this, like, I'm running a venture studio. I don't have enough time. I sold that other company. I said, you should do it. He said, if we partner together, I will do it. And so we partner together on Bootstrap Giants, this media company. And Jesse is committed to taking what he is learning in the different businesses that he is launching at the Venture Studio and teach them through Bootstrap Giants. And when Yannick invited us here to speak and teach, I said, this is right up Jesse's alley. He loves teaching, and he'll take some time away from work to do it. So I know I've kind of queued up a little bit of our relationship and your story.
Yeah,
but
thanks,
maybe
Andrew.
You can talk about the social.
Yeah,
part.
my quick story. I started my first company in 2010 called Ampush. We were one of the first to crack the code on large scale customer acquisition on Facebook, and that was, for those who remember, it was like desktop right rail. We were micro targeting ads. That evolved into one of the largest ad buying businesses on Facebook for about a decade. We ran Uber, Dollar Shave Club, Peloton, Blue Apron. Prior to that, I'd started my career in management consulting and on Wall Street. So I was going down a very sort of traditional career path, but really my heart was being an entrepreneur. And we sold a company a few years ago to private equity, and I actually moved back to the Midwest. I grew up in St. Louis. I was in San Francisco for a decade, and I think I had a lot of friends who were sort of the practical thing of like, well, you live in the middle of nowhere now. You should probably be on social media to continue to be in the conversation because you don't live in San Francisco. And then the spiritual part of it is like, hey, you have a lot of stuff to share, Jesse. Like, why don't you get out there and start sharing some of it with the world and see what happens. And so I started probably in 2021. I was on Patrick O'Shaughnessy's podcast. I started writing some content. And the way I started was really, what are some of the dinner stories I would tell people that I always knew kept people engaged? And I just started writing those on social, and started growing. But I think the more fun part for me was really starting to meet people who are like, hey, this is super helpful. This is a really good framework. And I think more and more, and that's, Andrew and I started reconnecting and saying, maybe there's something here. Maybe we can put this all together into a business. Kind of the three goals we always talk about are: one, keep growing kind of the broad brand presence through high quality content. Two is like, let's help a lot of entrepreneurs. And three is, let's have a lot of fun and be energized. And so that's kind of what we're doing with Bootstrap Giants. Today's presentation, I think, I want to talk a little bit about how organic social and paid social work together. But Andrew, I'll kind of look to you to guide me to questions, and I'll use the slides to answer the questions. How's that sound?
It sounds good to me. Our focus will be on that social, organic. We're going to talk about how to unlock some revenue with organic social. We've done it, and we'll talk about how we did it. And then the next section is Jesse will show you how he creates content. And as you can see here on your screen, we're looking for you to show us one or two pieces of content that you've posted that you don't think did as well as it could have, and he'll give you feedback right here live. I've got a few people whose content we're going to share and workshop here together. And I think this is a really helpful part of creating content, posting, getting feedback, improving. And frankly, even if you, Jason or Alex or Aristotle, have not posted it yet and you want some feedback, share it in the chat right now. Share your links. We're all here doing this live. And Jesse will give you some feedback on it and show you how to improve, and it'll help everybody.
Where should we start, Andrew?
So revenue is probably working backwards, but I think it's important because as you've done this, maybe you can give us in the next slide, talk about like how you've gotten to these numbers, even though this isn't your full-time thing. You're running businesses.
Yeah, to me, this started again with, there's a couple of big pieces to it. I think one is, I tell this to a lot of people, and I get a lot of people asking me about social stuff. Like, you have to kind of enjoy it, and that enjoyment can come from a lot of places. It can be fun to write stuff down. Andrew, you say this to me all the time, of like using this as my own personal journal to like process my thoughts. I think that's been really valuable. I think sharing stories. I think finding things that I like. I've written a lot of content around Bootstrap Giant founders, like other founders you've never heard of them, and then you hear the story and you're like, oh my God. And like, that's what my friends and I text each other. And so I think the authenticity of just doing it because you actually enjoy it and want it, because it is pretty brutal to do it constantly every day to kind of get the value out of it. So people who look at it like a marketing channel, there's definitely a there, but it's no different, easier, harder than any other marketing channel out there. And I think it's important that you really feel that. And I think getting across the different platforms, I think one mistake I made was not driving to an email earlier. People gave me that advice. I didn't really listen to it. And I think there was a time in the Twitter times, especially, where it was much easier to get email followings. And obviously, the big thing there that everyone probably knows is having your own owned audience in an email is much more powerful than having to deal with other people's platform like LinkedIn or Twitter. So they can be great for top of funnel, but they can be challenging over time. And Elon buys it and changes everything. So having your own email list is really valuable.
What about this though, Jesse? I just posted something today. It was fun for sure. I talked about how my name was not Andrew Warner until I changed it in my 20s. It was fun, but dude, it was also agony. Agony. How do you get to post on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think, again, I would try to keep it authentic. I think for me in the beginning, it was like I was having fun with it, and it would be ideas that would come to me, and then I'd see what would perform, and then I would go write something else. And I think you don't have to post every day in the beginning. When you're on Twitter, I think in the beginning, it's actually much more important to be engaging with other people's posts and just being in the conversation. And then every time you have a good idea, write about it and see kind of how that plays out. I think now that we've kind of built this into more of an operation, we have additional help. We have some team members, and we're writing and posting things we have a content calendar. We're doing it every day. But even that, we argue, Andrew, sometimes is like, we're like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should post less often, but make it more, save it for only the best stuff we're doing. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think you got to find what works for you.
All right. But it is also helpful for business, as the next slide will show. And you have this killer story about this one post that you put up just before you went out for dinner and what it did to your business.
Yeah, this was when I got convinced, I think, of the commercial value of social. So early on, I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm like meeting people. This is great. And then this thread I wrote took me 20 minutes. It was like a fun story about how quickly we had bootstrapped this business, Growth Assistant, and it went viral. And this is, I think I only had 8,000 or 10,000 followers at the time, but it went really viral. And we got 400 leads. Like I was at dinner and just kept seeing my phone blow up. And then we've probably used this exact same post. Literally, you just changed some of the numbers or saying the headline. We probably use it another 10 or 20 times, maybe more than that. And it's led to thousands and thousands of leads. And so, we can link to the whole story here. It's a good story, right? It's a well-told story, but it's kind of been a funny one because in more than anything else, it just tells you the power of storytelling. Because the story is about starting the business. It has almost nothing to do with the talent or the value prop, or it's not sort of strictly speaking marketing. It's just a story.
Yeah, and we will dissect it, and you'll see why this story got so many impressions, 4 million impressions, and helped to get so much business. But
and it happens everywhere. I mean, you can see it here. Like we all know Mr. Beast. Like this is organic social tends to be a huge opportunity because when you make it work, there's just huge output from it. This is a really interesting one. I think for those who don't know, Google search, obviously, there's a whole host of things happening in the search landscape right now. You've obviously got your traditional Google search. This talks about TikTok and Instagram, which have become huge search engines, and that's a huge opportunity for people making organic content. And another one that's coming is LLM search, which is not on this slide, but that's another one I've been paying a lot of attention to is people now go on to ChatGPT or Perplexity or wherever and ask for things, and thinking about that, I think, is really important. But social search is a huge opportunity for organic things, and I think travel. I think a lot of these categories are going to start to become bigger and bigger on the social platforms.
Do you do that, Jesse? Do you actually go to TikTok as a search engine?
Totally, yeah.
You do? What do you search for on TikTok?
Travel is probably
to Google?
a pretty common one for me.
I never thought to do that.
But some of the AI stuff
you want to
is
go on a
common.
trip?
Yeah, I find it to be much more interesting to search for a hotel on TikTok and see someone's TikTok on it than I do now looking at it on Google or TripAdvisor.
I never thought that.
So it's also like we're very early in this stuff still, which is kind of crazy to believe, but true. And you could see, obviously, I could be on this list in the B2B front, but there's a lot of people who have built businesses off of the back of social followings.
Yeah, Adam Robinson had this software company that was basically bootstrapped and failing. And because he decided that he would go on LinkedIn, a platform that was really stodgy and not fun at the time and not doing much, and he would just go on and post his journey. This is what I'm doing. Here's how I'm getting customers. Here's the competitor that wants to shut me down. And people would start to talk about it and get more attention for him. And the guy's built up this huge business, very profitable right now, retention.com.
Yeah, I think when you start to see these examples, I mean, this is more in the affiliate space, but it was someone like this put together a huge category. You can go out and get affiliate deals. You know, when Andrew and I have done with Bootstrap Giants, we've gotten deals with B2B brands. We've done a whole host of things to monetize the social presence, and you know, the money is very real. So this is an example. Tori, she's done a bunch of financial services content, and you can kind of see the breadth of it. But then she's got a whole set of different ways she does this, and now she can go to banks and credit cards and different folks and be able to be their spokesperson. It's kind of a big affiliate play.
So Jesse, we did that. There were brands that you basically, here's the playbook that you had. You went on your social accounts and you said, I'm looking for sponsors, who's interested, and you got some sponsors. Did it feel weird to run sponsors on your social media?
You know, I think we only picked companies that we actually worked with and we knew, and I think that was super valuable and important. With that said, like it did become like we hadn't figured out yet how to actually make it valuable for everybody. And I think one of the big things in social is it has to be valuable for everyone. Meaning the people reading your content and the brands, if you're going to work with brands. And I don't think we ever quite got that equation down. Some of it was because we were thinking, okay, let's do this on a performance basis, but maybe that wasn't the right play. And so we kept trying to drive content to people to see if they would buy it. And some of the stuff, you just have to figure out what you're able to get done. And oftentimes influencers, especially B2B, is like, well, Jesse talks about Superhuman, so that's actually really powerful in the world, but he's not going to get the specific signups to take place. So I think you got to make sure we obviously went to extreme, I think, or we were trying to figure it out, and the content got too commercial. And so it's pretty interesting, right? You got to find that balance, and the more narrow you can be, the better. I think that also helps how like, the right people are following you for the right type of stuff.
I feel that because I was managing the sponsors, I was the one who wanted to get them the results that they had paid for. And so I would keep ratcheting up how aggressive we were at pushing people to sign up. And obviously the audience didn't love that. And so results started to go down. And it really is a challenging place to be. How much can you sell? How much actually is helpful? And where do you want to go a little bit softer? But the big point is, shockingly, there are sponsors who want to do it even when your numbers are not Mr. Beast numbers. And also the audience, up to a point, really does appreciate seeing more depth into the products that you're promoting. So there is
I think we're in the second inning, first inning maybe, of B2B influencers. Mm-hmm. Like Alex Lieberman's getting ready to start an agency that's going to go and help brands with B2B influencers. And we saw that, Andrew. We a lot of the brands, they didn't really know how to work with us. They didn't know, like, are we brand? Are we performance? How do you get us the assets? What are the tactics that work? And we were all kind of like fumbling around, learning it on our own. And I think that, to me, that's always an exciting place to be, because it means no one really knows what the answer is ultimately going to be. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity in building that. So I think B2B influencers, that category is still very, very early.
And one thing before we go on to now how to create the content that I think was really helpful that you had done with the sponsors was you said, look, we're figuring this out and we're going to figure this out together, instead of saying we know exactly how to do it and we're going to deliver the numbers. We're figuring it out. And so they gave us a lot of feedback and they helped us come up with ideas that worked for other partners that they were working with that ended up leveling us up. All right, but all that happens once you get real audience, and the real audience comes from getting good content.
Yeah, let's get into what it takes. I think oftentimes you want to, I'm learning this over and over again of like, the more value you give, the better you're going to end up with from the right types of followers and the right types of situation. And to me, the bar ultimately is, you think about, like, everybody today is going to share something with someone. Maybe someone you work with, maybe your wife or husband, maybe you're going to see something online and go, hey, look at this. It might be a screenshot of a conversation. And why are you doing that? What's causing you to do that? What's causing you to do that is you saw something of value and you want to pass that value along. It's a form of currency. And so to me, that's always the bar for social content on any platform is, will someone go and share this content because it's so valuable that it's going to give someone else there? And so obviously, if you're building up a brand on social, you want to give away a bunch of stuff, and then you can sell the more detailed aspects of this. The way these social platforms work, right, is like, they basically pay you with engagement. You know, you're handshaking with TikTok or Twitter or Instagram or wherever, where they'll give you more engagement. You give them more content that people watch, and then that's a nice little circle. And then if you're getting that circle going, you can funnel off a portion of that into your email list or other places where you can turn around and get some value out of it. And there's a million different ways to monetize it, but that's generally, you think, how much is it being shared, how much are people watching, and how much are content, and then you obviously get scale through distribution that comes from that.
Yeah, it looks like some people who are watching us in the audience are already there. Like Niranjan has got a Beehive email newsletter like us, and that is a really good place to not offload, but to move people from social.
Yeah, and then the one thing that's very different than the old SEO Google land is in SEO it's like, well, they wanted you to get off of Google. You go to Google, you find the thing you want, and then they pay attention. How long do you stay on the site? Do you bounce? And that would shift how your SEO ranked. In the social platforms, again, they kind of want you on the ecosystem. They don't want you to leave. And so, there's all these things like LinkedIn doesn't want links to be pushed out, and you kind of constantly have to deal with that tension. And it's just an important thing to be very mindful of, that there's a tension there that's different from the old days. Excuse me. It's beautiful weather here in St. Louis, but the allergies are in full bloom. Each of these platforms has a slightly different approach, and it's important to know the nuances between them. And some of them are changing. Twitter seems to be changing. Twitter used to be much more focused on the content and retweets, and now it's way more focused on comments or comments to comments or things. And I think you just see different fits for how you can monetize these different platforms. And within each niche, obviously, the bigger the platform gets, I'd say TikTok and Instagram at this point are big enough. Frankly, all of these, that you can just get a business audience. Obviously, LinkedIn and Twitter are where a lot of the business audiences start.
We're seeing one person, at least in the audience here, is really excited about Instagram. Of course, I like Instagram for being able to move people off platform to other platforms.
Yeah, this is somewhat obvious, but there is a hierarchy of engagement. And it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier, which is the bar is sharing, or the bar is, hey, I want to send this. And even you'll actually notice it on TikTok the most, where if you text someone a TikTok versus even retweeting it or commenting, you're going to see more stuff. You're going to see that video go much more viral when people are texting it out to other people, because they're bringing people into the platform. And you kind of start to see that across the board with social.
The writing the good stuff.
What'd you say, Andrew?
The challenge is writing the good stuff, which is what we're getting to right now.
Yeah, I think again, every single platform, Twitter X, there's engagement time, but every single platform, I'd say, sort of thinks about this the same way. I'm gonna go down a little bit here.
I was thinking,
so I think these are just different examples. That there's comments.
I want to take a look at the examples, Jesse, that you've done, because you highlighted one up here for Twitter and how it prioritizes engagement. I thought maybe we can look at that and then break down one of yours and see why it's working so effectively.
Yeah, so this is obviously engagement time is a big one. LinkedIn has gotten really focused on comments. So you can see these are, the little comment trick where you ask people to do a comment on it. Anytime you can share data, personal experience, one thing about social you want to think about is you got to share things that only you can share. I mean, that's kind of the whole idea of having a personal brand, is that it's got to be things you only know or you only can share, not broader, wider things, because then anybody can share those things. So that's a big thing that guides me when I try to put content out there.
You know what, if you hold on that last slide, I think it's important for us to talk about, because this is something that Yannick from Hive Fury has really done a great job with. These posts are so effective, and we've done this more on X than we've done it on LinkedIn. But the idea there is you say, I've got this amazing thing. I think you're going to want it because it does this same amazing thing for your business. If you want it, just comment and I'll get it for you. And of course, if you're with Hype Fury, you can use one of the DM campaigns to automatically trigger this on Twitter, where someone will then comment to get it, and they'll automatically get the thing that you've offered. And because they've commented, the algorithm sees that it's popular, which then gets it in front of more people who will then comment and make it seem really more hyped up. And that is incredibly effective. And the other thing that you get is this direct message relationship with the people who've downloaded your stuff. And so we have then gone on, since Jesse has Growth Assistants, that's one of his companies where he has people who can do growth work. We've asked the Growth Assistant, can you log in and DM people who got past lead magnets from us using this DEM campaign and share one of the more recent posts with them? And when they do that, it gets more action for the more recent post too. So it's really effective. If you are using Hypefury, I highly recommend that you play with that. I can't imagine not doing that. Alex, you've been really active in the chat. Are you using that? If you're not, I think you're missing out. If you are, I want to know how. All right, Jesse, I really wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah.
And
Same
look,
thing.
yeah,
on,
we've
on
done
X.
it on X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These comments go a long way.
Look at that though, Jesse, that one post. I mean, 100,000 views on a post where you're giving something away. And the lead magnet is essentially, this one was for a sponsor for Notion. So 100,000 views on that top right one, 100,000 plus views for the bottom right. And then the one on the far left is for Growth Assistant, where we got 56,000 views on that. And these are people who are qualified to sign up to work with Growth Assistant. So again, I'm not trying to hype
I mean,
up
underneath all of this
Hypefury,
is
but
value,
it's
right?
effective.
But I think that's really important. That underneath all of these things, you're giving something away, you're creating value for others, and I think I would just emphasize how important that is. I'm gonna keep moving on this. I think this is a really important slide because I would say that this is that thread we talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Every social platform essentially comes down to these three things. You know, there's the hook. How do you get someone on? And of course, in TikTok and Instagram, it's different. Then how do you actually give them something that's interesting? And there was lessons from this story. The story was very well told, and then there was this sort of relatively soft call to action, but it was very authentic in the way we did it, and you can kind of see how it all played out and how it went from here. And so I think you'll see that in every single platform. And there's a lot of different ways to think about the hook. My favorite one to think about is curiosity and benefits. So in this case, it's like, okay, this is curious. How did he do this? And then I'm going to tell the story so someone gets what those benefits are. And to me, again, the way I've heard it said is curiosity is powerful, benefits are powerful, but when you combine them, it's really powerful. And you got to have both of those things to make a really viral post come through.
Let's see what the curiosity in that though is. It says 100 days ago, I co-founded a business totally bootstrapped. Today it's doing 50,000 in MRR, growing 50% per month. Here's the story. What exactly in that is the curiosity?
What's
Didn't you
the
tell the whole
business?
story there?
What's the business?
What's the business that
business
got
did
to
this guy
$50,000 in that?
How did he start? And why is it growing so fast? And what's this like? How did he do it? It's. I think one of the things to keep in mind is curiosity doesn't have to be so explicit. It's like sometimes I'll if you say to a friend, you're like, oh, I got to tell you this story, or I can't wait to, I've been really wanting to tell you this. That has a lot of curiosity built into it, right? Because they're going, wait, what are they going to tell me? Where are they going to go with this next, right? Or like I'll say these, and sometimes I didn't notice I talk this way until I started learning kind of the social language. I'd be like, Andrew, I got to tell you something. You're going to love it. And that's like, you're like, what are you going to tell me? And it seems like it's going to be beneficial to me, right? So that's a very simple phrase, but it gets somebody's attention immediately.
And then what's the benefit offer in that? I mean, I'm hearing you talk about
You're
how
going to
you got
love it.
rich.
Oh, you mean in this?
Yeah, in that.
Yeah, I'm
what's
going
the
to learn
benefit?
something. I'm going to learn something.
I see that in here, by you sharing your story, the implied benefit is they're going to be able to do something similar or benefit.
Yeah, I mean,
from
you
this
see
by
some
building
people
a
in hooks,
business.
they'll say something like this, and then instead of saying, here's the story, they'll say, you can do the same thing. Here's the story.
Or steal
And you
this.
can
or
follow my
something like
rule.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, I'm with you.
And so, again, you'll see this across every platform, right? Everyone does the same stuff.
Yeah, once you start to think about hook, benefit, and then call to action, you start to see it everywhere. And when you don't see it, it feels a little bit off. All right.
Yeah, I think this is from Dickie Bush and Nick Cole, but I love how they break it down. It's like how many, what, who, like, and then there's this curiosity, like 9 reasons writers suffer from writer's block and give up writing forever. Right? You can feel the drippingness of like, ooh, what are the reasons? I like want to know what they are.
Funny, numbers always do work. I don't know what it is about it. I guess there's a mystery in the number. What are the 9? Why did you pick 9? Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things in numbers. Numbers get people's attention. Numbers get shared. Numbers feel real. There's like results. It's like a scoreboard. I also think that like 3 things or 7 things or whatever. It's like, okay, this is not going to be an endless list. Like I'm going to get a few things, and that's going to be nice for me because I don't want to happen. I think current events, something we've played with Andrew a lot, as you know. So I think there's a lot of these are some different common hooks that can be used.
So yeah, again, I've seen
Keep
some of you
posting.
comment below. Keep commenting them. We're gonna do the mini workshop actually right now. So keep commenting. Jesse, I picked these from Heaton. Look at 2 different posts that he has, and I'm curious what you think would have made his posts do better. Like, how did you add a hook to a story like this? The one on the left. Most founders don't understand venture capital. I could see instinctively that doesn't really feel like a strong hook. It feels like a statement I've heard a lot.
I'm sorry, I'm reading them. More money means more growth. I mean, the first thing on the left one, it's just too long. A hook has to be the thing that I can like understand what I'm about to get from it with a very short amount of time. I mean, I like the sentence, the second you take it, everything changes. I think I would just
Would you
almost
start off
cut
with
this
that?
stuff. No, you could say most of founders don't understand venture capital. The second you take it, everything changes. There's also like just no payoff. Like I don't understand what I'm going to get if I keep reading this.
So
Right.
maybe most founders don't understand venture capital, but if they understood these 3 things, they'd be more likely
Yeah.
to raise it and grow their business because
And
of
if you
it.
wanted to make it more
Maybe.
natural, it's like most founders don't understand venture capital. The second you take it, everything changes. I've lived this life, and like here's some of the things I've learned. Or like
Yeah.
here's the type of pressure it creates, or something like that.
Knowing Heaton, it would also be helpful if he said, I took venture capital, my company blew up,
Right.
and here's what I wish
I
here's
learned this
7
the
things I
hard
wish I
way.
knew.
That's the other thing too that I generally am not a fan of like days and use, and I like to make things very I centric when I write social. Because days and use sound like you're preaching to somebody else.
Okay, and then there's the AI one, which didn't do well at all.
I mean, just this block of text looks hard to read. It's like hard on my eyes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't even a post, right? This is just a quick post.
Yeah. I see. Is there a way to turn that into something that gets attention? You just did one the other day that had basically 2 lines and a reshare, and it was one of your best ones.
Yeah, I mean, here's a simple question. Like, why would you share this with someone?
Right.
Why would this get shared? It doesn't, there's no meat to it. It's like if you say it accelerates feedback loops and iteration to an insane degree. Here's an example that we've seen recently. We needed to create blah, blah, blah SOP, or we needed to create a sales, here's what we did. Now everyone's sharing that. They're like, dude, look at this. This is insane. This is like, again, it's a little bit of like the classic English teacher. I think a lot about my 9th grade English teacher who's just like, show versus tell.
Yep.
And anything where you're telling, you're gonna lose people.
All right, now this one worked. Why?
Well, one thing on LinkedIn everyone should realize is that only the first 2 sentences end up being the hook for most people. And obviously Greg knows that, and he's done a nice job here. I mean, this is like a really bold statement, right? There's investors who invested in SaaS. There's entrepreneurs building companies. There's people who work at SaaS companies. Like anyone who knows that term is going to go, holy shit. Like this is, and I mean, this he probably could have done a little bit better. He probably could have written something like, let me help you understand what's happening and why it's going to end, whatever. But even this kind of is fun because it's like we're witnessing the slow motion collapse, and like there's just no way you can't click on more.
Right.
And then I'm sure if we read the post, I don't know if you have the post here, but if we read it, then
Not the full one.
I'm sure that it delivers on this in some way, and the proof is in the pudding. Like people wanted to share this post.
All right. I do want you to see some of the posts that people have shared. We can continue here, but I want to pass on some of the links that people have shared to go through them.
All
Right,
right,
Jesse,
let's
you're
do it.
let's go to all right, let's look at people's posts here. I'm going to start out with one that I think has been especially easy. I'm going to bring up, let's go with this. I'll share my screen. How much of this bit, by the way, Jesse, do you rework after you get it done?
I think it depends on your style of writing. For me, I have moments where I feel really inspired and I really can get it done, and so maybe there's a minor amount of reworking, and then I have periods where I really like I'm just kind of getting a rough idea out there, and it's going to take time and energy to rework it.
Let's take a look at this one. This is from Emron, who is watching us right now. Let me read just so we don't have dead air here in the beginning. Do you know how much money you would need to retire early in the US or Canada? Most probably not. Let's figure it out together. And then things you know about me, and it goes through that. What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, so a couple thoughts. I think one is this formatting I find overwhelming. Like it makes me not want to read it because of the check marks and the thumbs up and the repetitive formatting I don't love. I don't know Imran, so I don't actually know any of that stuff about him, and I don't not know any of that stuff about him. So in some sense, like it, I like the question. I think the question is a good question. I don't think you have to say most probably not. Let's figure that out together. That feels superfluous. It feels extra. Somehow the first beginnings of it, I think, could have been a very interesting part of this, but they end up like it's just too long and it loses me. And I think could you tell that in a few bullet stories, like, you know, on two sentences would be like, on the one hand, I have you know, computer science degrees and have worked at companies like Amazon. On the other hand, this is what's true about me. Regardless of that, this is the output I got or the outcome that I made for myself.
Okay.
I also don't
Do you like
understand
this?
why things about him matter for retirement.
Especially when we go things you know about me, things you don't know about me, and the results, and what to know, how I did those, and then want a free gift. We're really not getting to the benefit either. It's just taking a lot of conversation about Emron.
Yeah, I'd probably
before
pull a
we
lot
get
of the
into
results
that.
stuff higher up in the doc. Like, to me, that's the most interesting stuff that would get my attention. Is that like you know, it sounds like he's achieved a version of this already.
Yeah.
I'm on my, you could even say something, do you know how much money it would take you to retire early in Canada? I've done the math and I'm on my way. Here's some of the things that are true about me, or here's some of the results I've gotten. Now here's what I did.
Okay. I also like to just point one thing out, and that is that without the image over here, I feel like this is just a non-starter. I'm not sure why
Agreed.
Emron hasn't added that on.
Yeah,
That
I
seems
think
like
one
an
thing that's
easy
really
win.
important is people follow people, and
Yeah.
there's like a human connect. I mean, people have met you, Andrew, for the first time, or me, or done a Zoom call, and like they feel like they know us,
Yeah.
right? Because they read stuff
Yeah.
and they've gotten to know us, and that's a huge part of why building a brand works, is because people feel like they know you.
What about this? You do say I is better than you in a post, but Jesse, do people really care about us? Don't they care about themselves? Isn't that what we learned in elementary school writing?
Yeah, but when I tell a story, what most people do is they relate it to themselves.
Okay.
I was 25 years old. I did these things. Here's what came from it. And people go, oh, yeah, I could do that too. And when you say you is like, well, you should do this and you can do this and you do that. And it's like, no, this guy's like, I don't want this guy telling me these things. Like, I want to learn from his example, not be told, not be like mansplained on what to do.
Yeah, tell the story, let them come to their own conclusion, and they'll believe it more. This one is from Jason. What do you think by the way, first thing to me is we're done with hashtags on social in general, but definitely on Twitter. I think Elon Musk has basically berated people into stopping it. It's just not helpful for the algorithm. It's not helpful for the reader. What else do you see here?
I mean, this
Jesse?
looks like an ad. So I'm not sure that this would be an organic social post at all. And then again, like sharing links now on social just doesn't work because these platforms want to keep you on their own. So you have to, sometimes we'll even write a post and then we'll wait until it starts to move and go viral. Then we'll add a link to it later once it's already getting prioritized in that way.
By the way, Yannick from Hyperion, if you can bring Jason on, I like his eagerness to do better, and I just bring him on and have a conversation about this. So yeah, less like a post that less like an ad and more of a personal story is the answer to this, right? And then later on in a comment, you could include a link to what you're trying to get people to share. What do you think, Yannick? Do you think we can bring Jason on? Let's take a look at the second one. I have a feeling this is going to be the same thing.
Yeah, I just posted a link. If Jesse can follow that link, he can join as a guest.
Okay. Jason,
I like this
Yannick
picture
posted
better.
it. You do, huh?
I mean, the picture definitely catches your eye, makes you get curious. But again, the CTA is just this is an ad, I think. And you know, one thing we didn't talk about too much in the previous thing is paid on social these days is basically following organic. So if you can make good organic content, it's the same stuff. It's got a good hook, it's got a good body, it's got a good CTA. And so don't like even this kind of thing, like tell me a story. What's the hook? How do you get me into this so that I care about it?
Yeah, a story about someone who had used CoachPad would be really effective. Start off with a shocking accomplishment or a shocking failure, then tell me their story, and then by the way, they used CoachPad. I think is the approach to take. I'm gonna look at one other one that we got from our chat here. Jason, actually, there you are. Unmute yourself. Let's bring you in.
Hello.
Hi. You want to bring your camera up too?
Yeah, let me try it here.
Okay. Hey, this is
They're
your
working?
business, the CoachPad?
That working?
Yeah.
I gotta turn down my volume, maybe.
Yannick, you can probably turn on noise canceling for him. Tell you what, while you're adjusting it, and we're going to get Yannick to do that, let's take a look at one of the other posts. Give it a moment, too, for the connection. Yeah, this one is hard. So, Jesse, here's another one. Someone starting from scratch here. That's where Alex is. What do you recommend as a way of getting people to pay attention and to start building up an audience?
Yeah, I think a couple different things. One is I would actually just start by click on replies real quick, Andrew.
Yeah.
So I would see I would try to be replying to a lot of different threads out there. Go down.
Mm-hmm. Just start replying to threads that are popular.
Yeah, I would just want to see his replies.
Oh, okay. All right, let's take a look. This one is one iPad would suffice. Here's another one on 80-gram protein in pasta sauce is crazy. I saw that.
Yeah. So like just quickly looking at your comments, Alex, and like none of them feel very value add. And to me, when I started doing this on social, I think a lot of people do it. They're actually, and these are all kind of silly posts, which is fine. But there's comments where you'd say something like, "Oh, here's the thing I learned at one time when we had this situation. Here's what we did." And a lot of followers initially come off of other people's posts because they're like, "Wow, this guy is making some like smart comments and some smart points." And so that's actually where I would start. And then I would start by writing maybe some individual tweets or some more engagement and interaction. And then from there, I would start to write longer form threads and content like that. But I think that there's the big reason early on is how do you write comments that people are going to actually look at you and go, "Oh, who is that guy? What's he saying?"
Okay. All right. Jason, let's come back to you. CoachPad.
Yeah.
What do you think? Can you tell a story
I
here?
think I hear a reverb, and I'm just trying to. I hope it's not too annoying.
We don't hear it anymore. Yannick fixed
Oh, you
it.
don't? Okay, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually created this on the Hype Fury auto generation.
Okay.
And that's
Go
good
beyond
to
that.
know that you just take out all hashtags. Don't even add a link. I thought that was a call to action. I thought you always wanted to have in a post.
Yeah, you do, but it's a little complicated these days because on organic they don't want you sending them off the platform.
Gotcha.
So they're going to ding you for that versus you could go to say check out the website or again you need typically you want these posts to be making some moves before they're going to end up before you want to put a link against them.
Interesting.
Jason,
okay, good. Is there any
Let's see
way
if we
I
can
could
coach
get
out a
them
story
to
here.
interact with this or just leave it?
Leave this up, but let's hope that the connection's working well enough that I want to coach out a story from you. Why did you create the Coach Pad? Was there an experience that led you to do this?
Yeah, I am the coach there that was just doing this in practice, and there wasn't a device that I could use to make it easy to show scout cards out at practice. So I developed this actually to help coaches that are doing what I was doing a couple years ago.
And when you couldn't do it, when there wasn't a device like this, what would you use, and what's the problem with that?
Typically across the country, across the world, coaches are just drawing up on pieces of paper, or they're printing things out and they're stuffing binders.
Okay. So that's an interesting story. I was a coach of, and there was no way for me to do this. So I did that and then described the problem. I got fed up with it and finally decided to create a solution. And here it is. I'm hoping it'll do well.
And then you would just say, check my link in my bio or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Frankly, truthfully, at this point, if you're just letting people know, I don't know that they'll figure out how to go and see it. But yeah, check out the link in my bio, link in the comment below. They'll figure it out on their own. But telling your story a bunch of different ways is helpful. Jesse, what's a good hook for that though? So you got a story. He's a coach. He can tell it. What's a hook that would make anyone pay attention so that they could hear the story?
Well, presumably, if you've had this issue, lots of coaches have had this issue, right, Jason? So how do you start to tell a relatable story that would get them, like, coach? I'm thinking out loud, right? But it's like coaching high school football is one of the most gratifying things I've ever done. It's also been a huge pain in my ass.
Yeah, going to the copy room and making copies.
Yeah, like, there's so many reasons it's broken, and here's what I did about it. Like, now you've got, okay, like you've said the statements like, yeah, I love coaching, but yes, it is. Why is it so difficult? And like, now I'm curious, I'm interested, I want to go through it. Now you talk through it, and then you tell a story about how you then, you got into the Coach Pad and how you built
Interesting.
it.
Yeah, I mean, just don't put a link or anything like that in it. Just let it be a story, and they will go find out.
Yeah, again, you can
get
add, once you've got something that's actually moving on social, a link isn't as hurtful. But if you just throw a post up like this and have a link, you're not gonna get any distribution for it.
Yeah, and the numbers.
That's great to see. They're great to hear. Great to hear from you.
But I think the fact that you're a creator and you've got a story of someone who had a problem, it's enough to get people's attention and to not feel like you're another guy pontificating on social. All right, was that helpful?
Oh, very helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, let's close it out with this, Jesse. Where do you see all this going? Like, if we're looking down the road, are you still going to be participating, doing this yourself? Do you see AI supporting you as you're writing the way that Jason is looking to have AI work on Hype Fury?
Yeah, I think AI is going to make all the production of this stuff significantly easier than it is today.
Yeah.
And what that's going to create is more scarcity around realness. Because anybody now can basically go on ChatGPT and give me 10 tips to improve my resume, or 10 tips to be healthier, or 10, pick your generic stupid topic. But nobody can tell the story about how Jesse, last night, my son came into our room and got, he's almost 10 years old, and he got scared and he like cuddled into bed with us, and how that touched me in the following few ways. And so like, that's impossible for anybody else to tell that story. So I think the more you can get in tune, similar to what Andrew just did with Jason, to your own story and the people who can actually distill like what's interesting and how to tell those stories, I think the better. Like, that's going to be where the future ends up, because essentially everyone can become a creator, and it's going to become about personalized, storytelling, or really, if you go to the next level, vulnerability. Like, how vulnerable are you willing to be publicly? I think that stuff is going to end up being the thing that really drives social, and it's not for everyone. Like, I think that's an important thing to this. Like, there's a million different ways to market your business. I would make sure that there's a reason you personally want to do it, and something that's driving you personally.
All right. For anyone who wants to keep up with how we're doing this, we're both on LinkedIn, and you can follow us, Jesse Pujji, Andrew Warner, and we are also running a newsletter, Bootstrap Giants, where we talk about how Jesse's been building his businesses, how we're building this business, Bootstrap Giants, and social is a big foundational element of getting new people into our world. And so we'll keep sharing what's going on there. Thanks, everyone. Yannick, thanks for having us on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Maybe just one last question, because we have a lot of beginners, and I always like to ask a question like, if you started with 0 followers today, how would you get started? What would be your...
The number one thing I would do is I would go find stuff that genuinely interests me, people and topics and categories, and I would participate in the conversational threads. But, you know, we were picking on Alex, I think earlier, like, participate in them the way you would at like at a conference, right? That's one example. Like Twitter's this massive conference that's going on all the time, and like you wouldn't be sitting around in a circle of 4 people talking about marketing or something, and go, lol, haha, that's hilarious. That's just not how you would respond. You would go, oh wow, like tell me, like, how does that work? And actually, here's the thing I saw one time, and that's how this worked. And so, if to me, that's as a beginner, I would not be doing your own thing. I would just start to engage with people. You can make a profile and all that stuff, but and that's where this stuff becomes real, is when there's a real conversation happening between you and other people. Because then when you post something, those 20, 50, 100 people you've been commenting on, they all come to your thing and start talking. And this is all about conversation at the end of the day and getting to know people. It's not just blasting something out and, you know, and hoping people read it.
Exactly. Great tip,
I have noticed,
Jesse, and thank you.
I have noticed one other thing that I want to add that Jesse's especially good at, that I've been enjoying watching. He'll pay attention to see what's working for other people. And if it's working, if there's a new approach that's working for someone else, how can I tell my story, get my message out using that? And so sometimes he'll just on text share it with a few people and say, look, I've noticed that a bunch of people are now on LinkedIn posting PDFs. This is an interesting trend. I've noticed that people are telling stories on Twitter. Here's an interesting trend. I'm noticing that videos are going well, but sometimes they're bombing. Let's pay attention to that. And I think that as we were talking to Jason, if he could think about what's working, and then instead of creating a new thing, and just start by learning from them and using their templates for his content, I think it'll be helpful. So hope that's been useful. Thank you, Yannick, for having us on. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you, Andrew and Jesse. Thanks, guys,
Thanks, Yannick.
and everybody who
All right,
joined.
talk soon. Bye.
See you again next time. Bye.